You're propped up in my closet. That's why today might be a little bit shorter. We'll see how well it goes. How's it going? See you guys.
Got some fun demos for the Websockets now.
Ooh. Does it work with the CLI yet, or is that still busted?
It's still broken.
Oh, okay. I guess I should have added here. No, we should have done it yesterday, but I was kind of worried that there might be technical difficulties today, so I potentially kept it small. Our next one will be around release time. We'll probably have our pre-release out, so that'll be like our call for testing office hours. So today will just be a little bit more intimate, some demos and stuff. How's life? How's work? School? Projects? Anything anybody's working on right now?
Blizzard did come to Kansas. It's like an inch of snow everywhere and a bunch of ice.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, do you get school off or no?
Nope. Out of snow days. It was at least like relatively easy to scrape off because it was chunks of ice instead of one big slab.
I guess the Midwest is used to snow, and honestly, it's kind of sad. Everything has started going like remote last time I was in school. So there's like snow days and all that, like inclement weather days didn't really exist. Everything just went online. It's kind of, I don't know if that's like the modern experience for people these days. You just like hop on a Zoom call with your class instead of actually go to class.
It was kind of mixed. There was, I think most classes were actually canceled, and then there's like one that did a Zoom call instead.
Oh, people actually do cancel classes. Andrew, it's been a moment. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing fine, though I did catch a cold, but I'm already almost fixed. Almost. Like the
I'm
last
glad you made
maybe
it.
two days, and then I'll probably be able to go to the university again on Saturday morning. The worst of all days is Saturday. Yeah, but other than that, I was just about to continue my master's project, like the dissertation, because I'm now officially moved to NixOS. By the way, I now use Flakes almost everywhere, and so I try to um, incorporate Nix Flakes into type projects so I can like open new Vim, have Git, have types, have all the tooling that I need for the project to compile, and it's pretty good. Yeah, Nix. But I now have a pretty complicated structure, and so I need to figure out what is the best way to structure all the stuff. And then I see that the Dioxus logo changed slightly, and I was thinking like, what is it about? And then I see that it is live, and I was, oh, and I completely forgot about it. Yeah, but here I am once again.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you could make it. Yeah, Types had like a huge release recently, right? Like
Yeah,
a bunch of stuff.
I was the biggest fan. I don't know if I told already about it, but I was the biggest fan of the all indentations feature. So previously, like I don't know actually, is it in America you only indent all but the first paragraph, right? Or how does it work? Like the indentation, the first line indent.
I think you indent the first line, and then the rest are
No,
unindented.
no. Like Is it each paragraph or just the rest but the first one? Or you don't
It's
know?
each. I think it's each paragraph. I don't. Evan, you're the one closest to writing papers on the team.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've been told each paragraph. I didn't know there's differences there.
Okay, so the point is that previously it only indented the rest of the paragraph, but the first paragraph, even after each like list or after a figure, it will not indent it, and it was a huge pain, and I had to use a lot of hacks to mitigate it, and it finally happened, and I finally can indent all paragraphs. And this is the biggest feature for me because in Russia we always indent all our paragraphs, and now I can recommend even more because before it was like it's great, but there are some difficulties. But now the biggest difficulty just went away, and I'm happier than ever to uh, advocate for types and preach it. Yeah. So I was really happy about this one. It is really a huge release, and yeah.
You're like the
And since
biggest types
yeah,
types
in
evangelist I
Russia,
know.
probably yeah. I mean, in the probably too. And so this is why I'm trying to like start start from scratch and build up my dissertation like settings and stuff because now
Mhm.
in type 13 I have much more features and all of that. And also, uh, I will like finish the first chapter of the dissertation that I already kind of did. But the second one is to build a theme, and my theme is a huge type desktop application that uses Dioxus. So that would be would be interesting. So and I like need to do this in during this semester, so I have like about 3 or 4 months. So I think
Mm,
I'm on the tight schedule, but we don't have really much of anything else to do. I
yeah.
need to keep not being lazy and keep working on this, and then I will probably succeed. Yeah, but also probably I will be talking to you guys a lot more since I will use Dioxus like maybe almost every day. So we'll see how this will go.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, yeah, that's it probably.
Well, I guess like sort of a segue. One of the things we want to do, I don't know if we'll get it out this release, but like I don't know, everyone is using all the coding tools now, all the like the vibe coding. I don't know. I love the idea of like you don't actually have to write the code; you can just like tell the thing how to write the code as long as you know what you're doing. So we want to build like an lms.txt, which I learned is just like an entry on your website yesterday, but also like a context file, and then we can take everyone's questions in the Discord that they've ever asked and then put them in the context file. So uh, we can consolidate Evan into a text file. um, we have to set up some scraping thing, but that way, people ask questions and it immediately becomes a of context for the AI models in the future. Hopefully you get a kick out of that, Andrew. I don't know. All right, we should get started. We got a good group of people. Yeah, I mentioned right when we started, but I guess it's good now. We didn't make a whole bunch of noise. I'm traveling at the moment. I was worried my computer setup wouldn't work at all for this, but here I am in a closet. We're having office hours. Um, we have two very cool demos today, and then some other stuff to talk about, so get some feedback on. Um, we'll probably end up taking the whole hour, but we'll probably go through the demos in the next like 10, 15 minutes, and then open the floor to questions. We'll talk about our roadmap, the schedule for the next month or so. Um, Show off some cool things. We kind of want to start planning our next release. So we have about a month on this schedule. We were hoping to release end of March. We'll probably end up releasing early April. We'll have our pre-release out definitely by the end of March. In terms of like having time for people to use the release, we probably want an extra week or two built in there. Some of these features are big, some of them are small. So we'd love to get testers for the pre-releases as they come out. So probably be about 2 weeks, I'd say, for like the first 0.7 alpha to be available, and then release early April. Oh yeah, Discord stages. I think I have to change the office hours channel itself, right?
We have a Discord stages set up. We just haven't been using it.
Oh god, yeah, office hour stage. Oh, we should change the event to use the
But do we
office
need
hours.
actually a stage? What is the point of it?
I think the point is you don't hear the joining notification, and then people have to like raise their hand to
Oh,
speak.
yeah. I think the
Nice.
only issue like is that you actually need to raise a hand or ask for permission to speak. This is, I think, the only like disadvantage. But other than that, yeah, it's okay.
All right. Let me drop in. Here's the what's on the release. And we'll do a stage next time. Everybody keeps bugging me to do a stage. And I knew it today when I pressed the button. I was like, this is a stage, right? It's not a stage. All right. Let me share my screen real quick. We'll look at the release document. I mean, you can click it on your in Discord anyway, but your screen. Okay. So this is the Dioxus 0.7 roadmap. I'll make it really large. Yeah, you guys can see it, right? It's like nice and big. I can't see you.
Yeah,
so you
we
have to
can
say
see.
something. Okay. Yeah, so the biggest features of this release, if you were here for the last office hours, you got to catch a demo of actually 2 or 3 of the items that are on this release. So we're actually very deep into the feature development. We fixed a lot of bugs in 0.6. We put out our final 0.6 release, I think like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I just cut the final tag of 0.6, so there's like a 0.6 final, and everything from there on out is all breaking releases. So we need to update our 0.6 GitHub branch in case anyone wants to continue to use it. I don't think we're going to break a lot of APIs this release, so not much code change, if any. We might mess around with the error types that in a way that might not be backwards compatible, but I don't think that will change people's code. The 2 projects, or actually we demoed 3 projects last week. The first one was the Dioxus native renderer, so WGPU based renderer for Dioxus. Where's the GitHub Dioxus Blitz? That was this project. So Blitz is a HTML and CSS rendering engine for the future of Dioxus apps. Right now, Dioxus uses a web view. You can use other renderers, but today we use a web view. The idea going forward is that we use a WGPU renderer. So you don't have to rely on a system web view. You can just like render pixels yourself. And this is working. There's a PR up. I wanted to say you could use it today on Dioxus, like on master, but that is not ready yet. But there's a PR in here. It'll merge soon-ish. Where's inline native? Yeah, that's this PR. So you can mess around with this PR and it'll work for you. It's just one of the tests are failing, sadly. Then the other thing we covered last week was the WASM bundle splitting. So we have like lazy WebAssembly. That was also a cool demo. That's just like an opt-in thing. The router has an integration, so you can enable that and you get automatic bundling on the router. And then we have the playground release, which Miles also talked about. So last week was very cool, but this week we have 2 cool demos, equally cool or cooler on the same level. There's some stuff we might actually not end up shipping, so like integrated Tailwind. We might just add like script support, so like being able to run a command alongside Dioxus instead of inlining Tailwind. And then we'll see what we do about the component library. I think we really want to ship it, but there's also many component libraries alive right now for Dioxus, so it might be worth our time to actually help those grow rather than build our own for this release. So we'll see where we go. I'll read your comments before I hop in. Any questions? Will Dioxus 0.7 use Axiom 0.8? Yes. And I hope we'll have server functions 0.8 as well. I think there's PRs up for this, Evan.
Yes, there's a PR up for it. It's just breaking, so we didn't want to merge it in 0.6. And I also have that update for the server functions as well, because that uses 0.8.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I guess demo time. Well, I'll wait for questions for a second. All right, I see several people are typing. We have a lot of folks here. They're currently working Nix Flake. I think there is.
Well, the main repo does have the flake, but I don't know if it is working or not. But it does exist.
I believe there's one published. There is something Nix related in main. Someone maintains this.
I have Nix downloaded now. I run that test and I've updated it before. So you've got one of us.
I'm over here building this like VM infrastructure just to like have Nix. You guys love Nix. I don't get it, but sure. Need more examples. Yes, I wanna fill out our example projects. Really, I wanna like ship this binary patching stuff and then like vibe code, make video out of like vibe coding like 10 different apps. That would make great YouTube content and also like very good tutorial examples. This is nice because no more works on my machine. Yeah, but I don't have your machine, guys.
I mean, you don't have works on my machine, but it doesn't work on your machine.
Let me look at we have a side task board, which is more of like just internal stuff. Oh, other stuff we're shipping, scoped CSS modules. There's a PR up for this. They didn't make sense in a world where you didn't have real Rust hot reloading, but they do make sense in a world where you do. So I believe Miles, you've worked on this. I think we're going to be able to ship it.
Maybe. I haven't, so it's kind of on the back burner right now, but it's definitely something I could probably get done here soon.
Okay. Yeah, we got a lot of ideas for things. We get more and more ideas. Nix has to work on macOS before or has to work on not macOS, Mac before I switch. It does work on Mac. Is it GPU accelerated? Does my laptop sleep when I close the lid?
I have it installed on Mac, but I don't remember much about how I set it up. I just like went to the installer page and then some command to run the Nix shell config that we have tested.
Wait, is Nix different than NixOS?
Yeah, it's completely different.
Oh,
Nix is just a tool in your CLI, but NixOS is like a complete operating system. And
I think Nix is like half
use
what
NixOS.
they did.
Interesting. Okay, I'm learning new things. See, I just think in Rust. I dream in Rust these days. It's I don't even know package managers. Cargo install, right? That's a package manager. All right, I think it's time for demos. I can go first. Evan, you can go first. I don't know if you're set up for your demo yet. Go?
I'm set up whenever.
All right, go ahead. Get away.
Okay, can you see my screen? So Dioxus, the new version of Dioxus 0.7 will have support for WebSockets in server functions. So you can annotate your server function with a protocol that says it's using a WebSocket. and then it takes a stream of
It's,
data and
your screen's black, Evan. Like few people are saying that.
does he?
No, it's black.
Can you see a jumbled mess of windows now?
Probably on the stream.
Yeah.
Discord.
Maybe you're sharing just the window.
Also, your man cave is pretty echoey.
Because the Discord was.
I can do my demo.
Okay, I can do a specific window. So can you see the code now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes. So 0.7 will include WebSocket support for server functions. So server functions can now both accept a stream of data and return a stream of data. So here I have like 100 lines of Dioxus code that has a chat app that's multiplayer. So whenever you call the server function, it adds you to a list of connections. And then whenever somebody sends a message here, then it will loop over all the connections and send out data. And that lets you like have multiple clients running at once. And I gotta change my screen. They can all send each other information. So I can send like hello from this user, and it shows up in all other users. And then if I send it from another user, then that shows up there as well. I think you guys can only see one screen right now, so I don't have to demo. Makes that much sense.
Well, so this is, I believe this is us trying to replace live view, right?
Yes, eventually replacing live view. Right now, it's not quite as ergonomic as live view because you don't have state that is shared between the server and the client. But if we combine this with a CRDT solution that lets you do like control-free replicated data types, I think, where you can have data living in multiple different places and it handles synchronizing that data, then you can have a server that you pass or a signal that you pass to the server and it exists both on the server and the client at the same time. You could even like pass it around to multiple different clients. So like in the chat app, you could have like a back of messages and pass that to all your clients, and you just mutate it in place. Then automatically does the like WebSocket communication based on that. So you get like almost a live view experience without all the downsides of performance and the like loss of client-side interactivity when you're offline briefly.
Well, can you bring up the code again? Just want to take a look. This is my first time seeing this. So.
So can you just zoom it in a little bit because it's a little bit small.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Will we be able? Do you think we'll be able to like infer the protocol from like the return type? Is that a thing that we can do, or?
Yeah, the function API here is structured so we can do that. So if we just like returned a box stream, then it would be server-side events. If we both accept and return a box stream, then it has to be a WebSocket. But for now, this is kind of how like the server function repo is set up. So I'm doing this in stages right now. So
Wait. If you just like emit the input stream, you get SSE for free.
that doesn't work yet, but yes.
Okay. Wait.
Theoretically, that's like the.
Wait, that's so cool. I don't think people.
That's why it's like a box stream instead of a WebSocket.
Might be better to keep the explicit protocol in the thing, I think, because it's in the macro, because it's not that like much boilerplate really, and I don't know, I wouldn't really want to like unexpectedly end up with server-sent events just because I've changed the signature of my function. I kind of want that to be a compile error if I've specified WebSocket and then I've done the wrong signature.
Oh yeah, if you do it wrong, like if I don't accept this, then the WebSocket will give me an error.
Yeah, see, that's quite nice.
But if you don't do a protocol, then we can infer whatever protocol based on just the signature of the function in the future if we don't do this right now.
This is very cool. This is very, very cool. I knew it would be cool.
And presumably these WebSockets work across all of the front-end platforms for Dioxus to mix and match.
It works on desktop as well, so it should work for Blitz. You can do desktop via request or glue/websys the web.
Yeah, seems like that would make a very cool demo once we like build something on top of it. I mean, it makes a cool demo anyway, but you know what I mean. If it was an actual app, very cool.
Yeah. Oh. I think there's a question about if it's like per function or not. I think you could just like also put the connections in like a shared state, like a shared server state, right? Instead of like one Slack thing.
Yes, this is like the easiest way to do it is to put it in a once lock, and that's like once per server globally. You can also use the server context and declare it like somewhere in your main function and pass it into the Dioxus context via one of the builder methods and pull it out inside of here.
Yeah, one thing that I was wondering is whether it would be useful to have like a separate function, like a trait with two functions, I guess you'd end up with, for like the initial accepting the connection and then like a separate one for each item in the stream. I guess because you get the whole stream and you just only ever have the one. So yeah, that kind of works.
The JSON types are the input and output encoding types. So you can change that to like postcard if you want smaller binary serialization or like whatever other serialization scheme you want. It doesn't have to be Serde. And server function has like a bunch of these built in.
Yeah, I want to use WebSocket and use multiplayer, and yeah, I feel like there's cool stuff to build on top of this as a primitive, or like a, imagine a world where you can import a crate and then it gives you like a chat structure, and that comes with the back end and the front end, like all the pieces you need to implement like chat into your app, the whole thing. Would be very cool.
You can kind of do a live chat right now, Andrew, but you have to do the WebSocket endpoint in the raw Axum handlers. It can't be in server functions. And then you need to like handle the WebSocket communication yourself.
I remember we were talking about this, like that it's not two-way communication, like you only can read constantly or write. But with this update, is it like two direction?
Yeah, that's what the WebSockets fixes. It lets you do two-directional communication. It also fixes a bug with the.
So after this update, can you do the live chat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the demo does. If I could share it properly, it does a live chat between multiple different websites.
Yeah, that would be really, really insane cool. You can do everything with Dioxus at that point.
Yeah, I mean, mobile. I imagine a world where one day we could send HTML in the WebSocket, so you could have like server-side rendering as a stream. I don't know, like the components don't have to be defined on the client, so you can change them on the server, but they still get rendered on the client. Yeah, very interesting. If we could ever serialize HTML in that way, like the RSX stuff, that'd be so cool. And like an on-click is actually a WebSocket message, and then like like live view.
Yeah, that kind of reintroduces some of the limitations of live view.
Yeah.
But I do think it would be possible.
Okay, cool. Any other questions, or yeah, we'll go on. I have a demo. I have another demo. Good to see you, Nico. Also, and everyone, obviously. Nico, I don't think you've been to one of these yet, or maybe you have. It's been a moment. We demoed Blitz last time, unfortunately. So the project that you would have been able to show off, I don't think you were there for. Right, I'll share my screen. Where's clear? Let me clean this up real quick. Okay, so we've been talking about this for a while. Can everybody see it? Is it too big, too small, just right?
That looks right.
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Zoom in a little bit. Okay. We've been talking about this for a moment. We want to add like proper hot reloading to Rust, like Rust hot reloading in Dioxus apps. So I think everyone's pretty familiar that today you can hot reload like the HTML of your apps. So we'll do that really quick. It runs it, builds it. Great. We can come in and we can start adding like normal content. This is a paragraph. This is instantly hot reloaded. This system we built, I think we've had it for maybe like a year and a half. It's kind of one of the first things we did after switching Dioxus to use like the faster template system, where under the hood it's this like special compile that separates the dynamic portions of your app from the static portions. So this is basically us updating the static portions live. So this is how you get the feeling of hot reloading. We added the ability at some point to hot reload things that are kind of dynamic. So for example, like we have count here, this is an expression. We can actually duplicate this in current Dioxus. This count expression is thrown into like an expression pool. And if that expression shows up multiple times in the expansion, we can actually just copy what it resolved to. So in this case, it resolved to 0, like the text to 0. So we were actually just able to copy that. This was a change I think we added in 0.6, I think. Yeah, this was last
pretty
release.
recent.
Yeah. And we made this decision like thinking, well, Rust hot reloading is an infinitely or potentially infinitely difficult problem. There could never be like a good general solution for it. And there still really isn't like a great general solution for it, which is why we took this approach. But we have been working on it for a while. I think the in-place binary patching repository has been alive for like 8 months at this point. We worked on it for a lot for like 2 weeks and then didn't touch it for like 7 months. But now it's back and it works. So now we have proper hot reloading of Rust. So like this counts expression, we can add 5 to it. There's going to be a fast rebuild. And then, well, ignore the fact that it's 5 in both places. We actually reloaded the Rust expression like live. So there's a small chunk of your app that is getting rebuilt, and then we diff the actual like output, like the executable that gets built, and then we're able to load that patch in to a running app, and then prefer to use that patch as your app instead of the original patch. And then in any places where the code didn't change, we just defer to the original code. So that lets you do all sorts of crazy stuff. So this is like I don't know, let's contents equals or contents equals 1, 2, 3, and then so this is like a normal Rust expression. We can actually drop it in here and format it contents, and we give it a second to churn. Oh, this is a content. I spelled it wrong. Yeah, and then we see it change to this is a 1, 2, 3. I know it's like kind of tough for you guys to see, so but you just take my word for it. This isn't. I don't know how to zoom in. Oh, we can create a button that zooms in real quick, actually. Button, unclick, window dot. Let me do this. Window dot set zoom 3.0. Zoom. Okay. let's zoom in. I don't know. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. It's nice and big. So we actually just hot reloaded an event handler into the app that sets the zoom level of the app without having to like shut down the app while it's running. And it's actually super quick. It takes like less than a second to do this whole work. So in this case, this was 982 milliseconds to do the patch. I think the last one is pretty quick, 820 milliseconds. Interestingly enough, the biggest delay is actually like loading stuff into memory. So if you make rapid changes, they're actually all very quick. So we can come in and like edit this contents here. And it's like half a second if you're like doing rapid changes to your app. But if you don't touch your app for a second, it takes about a second to do a full like incremental rebuild. So that's like full Rust hot reloading on the fly. These are like Rust expressions being jumped into your app, linked into your app. I don't have a demo for working for WebAssembly, but this whole thing works for WebAssembly as well. And it also works for server functions. So this PR is still a big work in progress. We have to like rip out a chunk of that hot reloading engine we added in 0.6 to make some of this work. But in a future world, you can hot reload your server functions and your client app and never ever shut either of them down. So they are still alive in place, and you can just like iterate on your app. And there's no resets. You're always on the page, and like state is preserved in the components as well. But you can put like a stream of messages, and that will retain there or stay there. You can edit the markup that still updates instantly, and then you can edit like the Rust code on the fly, and that updates within a second. Yeah, that's the demo. Back to the. Yeah, why did it show 5 tries? Yeah, so that's the thing. The old hot reload engine is like kind of conflicting with the new one. The holdout one, the old one is really aggressive at like trying to make as many changes reloadable as possible, and they conflict with each other. So we actually have to disable some of the stuff we enable to, or make them work together a little bit better. What happens when you modify a struct? Yeah, so when you edit a struct, we are able to see the cascade of changed code in the app. Usually that like results in a layout shift, and the actual assembly of your app will change. And we're able to like see where that struct is referenced actually by like the code. So if that symbol for that struct is referenced, or the symbol for the new is referenced, or some methods on that new, the layout will have adjusted the code gen for the methods related to that struct. And that has like a blast radius. And that blast radius. That blast radius like propagates all the way to main. So in theory, you can always reload back to main. In practice, like you probably shouldn't reload an app completely back to main. So if a change is able to modify all of the generated Rust code up to main, then you should just throw the app out and rebuild it. In the case of Dioxus, we're able to set these like binding points that if code changes don't cross the binding point, we can just rebuild the app from that binding point. The demo you're seeing is like us rebuilding there's a binding point at like app, like the first component, but you can do that anywhere in your app. So as long as you're able to like throw out all of those structs, then you can patch the new struct in, but you have to throw out that state.
Yeah, that's very cool that you're able to track like the blast radius, as you call it. That seemed like the difficult bit at one point.
Yeah, it means runtimes need to be integrated with this if they want really good support. Unfortunately, otherwise, like we have to throw everything out all the way back to like the first root point.
I think that's true of pretty much any hot reloading solution, though, right? Like if you do like hot reloading React in JavaScript, you still need your app to be integrated with hot reloading.
I've been like trying to come up with a good API for this. So like if your runtime doesn't support it by default, then you could annotate your function as hot, but then that like fixes the signature. So if the signature of the function you marked as hot changes, then that is like that's a full rebuild or a cascade up to the next hot marker point.
Yeah, it might be good if possible to have like a hook, so like a function in your app that the hot reloading system will call when it has done a hot reload, that would allow you to like reset state or something.
Yeah, yeah. The way it's kind of set up right now is you like can choose if you accept a function pointer like an fn type, fn red. Like if you are able to accept this, then we can give you the current one, and then we're also able to give you a struct that's like, did this change, and then you can go like listen for it, so you can like add callback to the runtime. So whenever like the runtime flushes the new functions in, you can like listen for those changes. It's like fn reloadable. Yeah, you're given like a special type that you can. So if you're a framework author, if you're like iced or like ego or something like that, you can accept a hot reloadable render function, and then you're able to swap that out in and out. Alternatively, for immediate mode, it's actually really easy. You just label your functions with hot.
That would be cool. We should maybe try it with like a web framework like Axum or something for endpoint handlers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Axum's one of the like it's the most popular one, but it's also kind of one of the weird ones because you have to rebuild the router. The router gets baked like once you put the methods on it, right? Because it's like router fn main router build serve. If you just want to update the router, you need some way of like modifying it, or you could just reload up to main. I think reloading up to main will work for most apps.
Yeah, I guess it would be nice to just be able to reload individual endpoints. I mean, I agree, reloading up to main will work for most apps, but then just recompiling everything will work for most apps.
Yeah, I mean, really, you want to be able to preserve things like WebSocket connections and I don't know, long-lived state as long as it didn't change. So for
I think
Axum,
one of
would be
the big things for me would be like if you had a big Axum app with let's say 150 API endpoints, you want to be able to reload one without reloading the whole thing because it's going to be so much faster. I mean, if you can do the hot reloading up to main and it like does basically an incremental build and that's still fast, then that could still work.
You could box all the Axum handlers. The server functions are now like just entirely boxed as Axum handler. It doesn't always take a request. And then it runs the extractors inside of there. It's like the top level function signature of the server functions never change, but the internal extractors it uses does.
Yeah, we should definitely enable it for server functions. You need to be able to provide like the function pointer somewhere, just so we know what symbol is the thing being hot reloaded. And in most of our APIs, we have the function pointer. Not every API is like that. So like Axum, I don't think they give you the function pointer. You know,
Maybe we could write our
there's a
own
different solution.
like router on top of Axum. Mind you, Axum is mostly a router, isn't it? There's not that much to it, else to it.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know, even in Axum, if Axum serve took a closure that built the router, right? The way some of this works is like you can actually hijack the fact that generics result in a new function being generated, and then you label that function in like a link section, and then now that is a root. So you can actually have closures that are hot reloadable. I mean, there's a neato arbitrary thing, but it does require like the frameworks to buy into it, unfortunately. Cool. So those are our demos. We have a couple minutes left. Any questions in here? Is this an RC problem or is there data incoherence? Now, this is just the fact that like if two expressions show up in RSX, we evaluate the first one and then we basically copy it for all the future instances of that one. So it was sort of like a pseudo pointer. It's not really a pointer, but like under the hood, that second expression is pointing to the first one. So when we updated the first one, the second one is still looking at it. Yeah, I want to do like a talk on this at some point. So for some RustConf, but we'll probably release a blog post to go with it before then, just so people can read about how this works. And it is very cool. It's I mean, Dioxus essentially becomes the linker, which is pretty cool. So we're like passing all these linker flags and setting all these things and building object files. But at the end of the day, it's portable. Why are people hyped about server functions? I don't know. I think it's cool. You can add your backend in the same file as your front end. Is that a good thing? I don't know. It's very useful.
You can import library or like server endpoints as a library. It automatically gets added. Like import authentication as an authentication one.
Yeah, I do think I'm like less hyped about server functions than you guys. I'm like, oh yeah, like maybe I'd use those, but like I wouldn't want to have to buy into them. Like I probably already got an API that's doing other things. So I definitely really like the idea of being able to partially use server functions and integrate them into my existing like backend that does other stuff as well. Which probably also means running as a separate binary, not like DXLing both at once. But they are cool, the way that you can just like it all integrates. That's kind of nice. I guess I'd want my server functions to be like consumable by non-Dioxus code as well. So because you know I've got an API and that's great for my Dioxus app, but maybe I want to expose some JSON APIs for some other stuff as well. So I want that to work.
I think we could probably build something like this.
Yeah, you can consume them right now from elsewhere. You just need to like manually set the API endpoint on the server function, so use an auto-generated one, and then that needs to be stable. Then you choose your server function encoding to be whatever you want. It defaults to JSON right now, but you can change the protocol to post or get, and then whatever serialization format you need. It isn't quite as flexible as Axum right now because you can't do like server-side events or WebSockets yet. Axum has more abstractors for that, and then the headers. I'm not sure if those are getting forwarded, but I'd like to add that.
What's the status of mobile APIs such as mic, camera access? This is something we actually talk a lot about as we develop Dioxus. We really need one big push. I mean, it will probably be a release where we either integrate with Tauri's plugins or just go and start building a bunch of stuff or porting a bunch of items over from other ecosystems. Sadly, like today, there's no good library from Dioxus that's like, here's microphone access, here's camera access, here's all these things. We shipped all this mobile tooling recently, and it's been baking. We really need a way to let people inject arbitrary code into their Android manifest and their iOS plist. That's been like this question of what does that abstraction look like? Do we decide one format and then translate it for you, or do you like insert it manually into both? We'll probably end up going more of that second route. That way we're more closely integrated with stuff like Tauri. Because Tauri's plugins, there's a number of these, right? The Tauri V2 plugins. Let's see, but as of today, you kind of have to ask Claude or Google, how do I like get the microphone on Mac or the microphone on Android? There are good guides for both of these things, and it's pretty easy to bind the code to it, but you just have to like hand roll some of this stuff at the moment. I think there are crates though, like Oboe and CPAL. Oboe. Yeah. Yeah, there's options, but it's not great. This would be next release that we focus on this. There's two big things we want to solve. Once this release is out, we have like the ability to configure your apps, and manifests and all this stuff is like a really big thing to focus on, and the ecosystem that goes with it. And then native access to the DOM. So whatever the DOM is in your renderer, the web, we want like direct, straight native access to the WebSys elements underpinning Dioxus, which is probably like the biggest blocker to like a layout effect, like synchronous modifications to the DOM. That is hard to abstract over on Bridge platforms. Evan, what would you say is a
I have
good
a
place to start?
question.
Oh, go ahead.
We talked about this before, but I didn't find an open issue. I sent the snippet. The problem was with the return error type in the when we use full stack and when we don't use full stack. And we talked about this. I didn't find the thread, but what is the current status? Was this somehow developed, or it's still a problem? So that I have
That-
to write these two hackers.
So that should be fixed in the server functions crate, but we published with the old version of the server functions crate, and this is a breaking change. So the next release of Dioxus will include that. You can return whatever error type you want from your server function, as long as it implements from the server function internal error type. So if you return like anyhow or Dioxus error, then whatever serializable error you want. It should work both if you're doing desktop with like a fake server that's running locally, or web with a remote server.
So what about the use server feature and use resource functions? Do they change, or do I have to use another API?
You can use resource on both the client and the server if you don't suspend. If you do suspend, then you need to like do that
Yeah, I
manually
do suspect.
or create like a wrapper function. But that is something we're looking at for the next release.
Okay. Well, I probably have to open an issue about this because yeah, it completely lost in the Discord. So yeah, but thanks. Yeah,
Yeah, an
I
issue would
will
be
fix.
a better place to track that. As far as contributing goes, like definitely look at the contribution guide, and then I don't know, I think just read the code at this point. We don't have a whole lot of internal docs for contributing, other than like the public docs on the functions, and then maybe some comments inside the code. There's not like a guide per crate or anything like that. Then the code base is also quite large, so it really depends on like what part of the code you want to contribute to. The contributors channel is also good if you have questions.
There's a question. Are there a good example of best practice for creating components with default style class values that can be overridden? Something works with Tailwind. Miles, you've been messing around with the style stuff. I can answer like the Tailwind thing. Miles, I think you also have a good pulse on how we're like bundling assets, right? Answer this
So I was experimenting with like default styles, and it's been a little while. I'm trying to remember. I think I did something like a style struct that had defaults, and it was like a builder type API. And so it wasn't like directly adding classes, it was using inline styles instead. I'm not sure whether that'd be a good practice or not.
We've been the idea behind like the asset macro, like why we shipped that in the first place, is so dependencies can bubble up their assets into top level crates. If like a library provides a tailwind.css or a styles.css, the consuming app, like your app at the top of it, should be able to like include that in your head. And then when all the rendering or the build time stuff happens, we're able to deduplicate classes. And Tailwind is one of those interesting ones that when you include that style sheet, it performs a CSS reset. So it will actually like mess with any existing CSS you have. So it's kind of like a conflicting setup. The idea today is that third-party libraries that build Tailwind stuff will export their CSS as an importable object, and you can put it in your head. In the future, we'd really like to actually walk all of the RSX blocks in the app and then bubble up those Tailwind classes to the CSS generation and run Tailwind on that. But that will not ship in this release, unfortunately. Kind of see. What does that mean by the Tailwind v4 CLI goes crazy? Like good or bad? Good, crazy, bad, crazy.
Well, I'm just comparing to the version 3, which I was using for a while. And version 3 seemed like it was working really well. It would only generate classes that you're using, but I've been using version 4 for a while, and it kind of, I'm not really sure what it's doing. It seems like maybe it's generating classes based off some other stuff that's in your Rust code, and then it seems to regenerate a bunch of times, even when you didn't change anything. I just noticed it has changes all the time. But I know, I mean, that's probably a Tailwind issue, maybe not a Dioxus issue, but
Yeah, we should set like its search paths. I don't know if it's smart enough. I don't think it's smart enough to traverse into dependencies today. Um, I think actually it's just like super aggressive on your project. If things look like a class, it ends up as a class.
yeah.
We use it on the doc side, or we just switched from v3 to v4 on the doc side. And I did have a lot of breaking style issues. Like it's kind of weird to see your app like different, but not that different, but like kind of different. Some of it is like it's overly aggressive with classes, or it's underly aggressive with classes, or it's just borders are different in the new Tailwind.
Yeah, I mean the differences in the actual styling seem fine to me so far. It hasn't really changed what my app looks like. It just seems like it's regenerating the CSS like all the time. I mean, even I'll make a commit with the generated CSS in the commit, and then as soon as I make the commit, then there's already new changes.
Maybe I think it might be reordering stuff.
Yeah, I haven't really looked into what it's doing, so it could be, yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to do it, or we wanted to put a lot of focus on Tailwind for this release, but I think everyone has been super busy with their own projects so far. I like punt. I want to ship. Well, I want this release to ship on time, so we'll probably push stuff off out of it and then ship that quickly in the next release. So, looking into new Tailwind things, inlining Tailwind or adding the support, more advanced Tailwind support would be a next release thing.
Cool.
But what else? Any other questions? We just hit our hour. If there's I wanted to ask if there's anything going on around standardizing a set of RSX widgets the way we have in some JavaScript frameworks. Yeah, this is we've been thinking about shipping the component library. Or there's a lot of projects going on. So do we just build like a radix primitives equivalent for Dioxus, and then everybody's got a form and a country selector and a input widget and all these things, or do we ship a full toolkit? Like so, ShadCN is just like you copy paste components into your app. I don't know. I don't have a great answer. I'd like us to ship something like ShadCN, or at least, or like the radix primitives. That way, people can build on top of it. I think that's what this like headless component conversation is.
Yeah, there's a project called Dioxus Mistero that has been working on like some headless or some component library for Dioxus, and wanting to integrate that somehow into Dioxus to like collaborate. And they've talked about like splitting out the headless part so we could use it in whatever styles you want to use with it, and then maybe a style layer on top of that.
It'd be cool that we could provide a Dioxus UI library that is just headless, and then you combine it with your favorite like styling library, Tailwind or inline styles or something. What is the command still correct for the doc site? I think dxserve. You might have to dxserve platform web.
Yeah, and it won't work in release mode.
What is the current state of mobile dev? Is it production ready? If you want to, Dioxus is probably the most advanced tooling and library to get an app on mobile today in Rust, which I hate to say is not a very high bar. There's just not a lot of, there hasn't been a lot of push to get mobile apps in Rust. That being said, just because it's possible doesn't necessarily mean it's easy yet. I'd say the thing that makes it hard is the fact that there's not a lot of libraries in the Rust ecosystem for this kind of stuff. That's the focus of the next release, is like building out this huge swath of native APIs and libraries. So I wouldn't really say today, if you're going to build like your company betting on the fact that like Dioxus 0.6 has everything mobile in it, probably not a great idea unless you're not using terribly advanced native features. Because the thing about mobile dev is you will always probably end up using some sort of native. You need to always dip down into some platform specific features. Today, you're gonna have to do that a lot more than what you're gonna have to do after the next release. Cross your fingers. You're still eventually gonna have to dip down into native features at some point. So if you don't need a lot of hyper-specific native components, things like you need all of the details of the hardware on the device, you need in-depth knowledge of like the lidar on the phone. You can use Dioxus for that today. In those more advanced apps, yeah, probably not on mobile. But our goal is next release. That's where Dioxus is going to be. It's like much closer to Flutter React Native in terms of featuredness and quality. Can simple CRUD front end for backend service be implemented? Oh yeah, easy. My next release means 0.7. So at the end of this month, we're gonna have, goal is a 0.7 alpha release, like ready for release. 0.8, that would be the next one, would be the one with all the mobile API build out. Though that will probably just be like additions to the SDK. So that could just be shipped incrementally. Like it won't require a version bump of Dioxus. We'll just probably keep shipping stuff into 0.7. Breaking changes. Okay. If there's any questions, we can answer them, but otherwise, that's it for today's office hours. Cool. No? Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming. We'll see you here, hopefully, with a version of 0.7 you can test out all the cool features in a month. And Dioxus in the future. All right, guys. Thank you.